Hello, everybody. Ron Callis with another episode of Automation Unplugged. This is episode 52. Today is Wednesday, September 12th at 12:31. We almost made it on time, right at 12:30. Yep, there we go. So I'm going to come over here to Facebook, see if our stream is actually effectively and being piped into our page. So give me a moment while I just check on that. Cue the Jeopardy music. All right, let's see here. There we are. We got some people jumping in. Cool. All right. Well, I am happy to be back here in Florida. Last week was an action-packed week. Some of you were probably out in San Diego and out at the annual Cedia Expo, and it was just a fantastic time. One Firefly was there in all of its glory. Brought a good contingent of my staff out there. Had a ton of fun. We went over to saw a bunch of our customers, saw a bunch of listeners of the Automation Unplugged shows. Ended up having some fun at various industry events, such as the ProSource party, the Control 4 party, the Azione cocktail hour. What else did we do? The Sonin party on Friday night, where they unveiled the EcoLinks energy automation product, which was pretty spectacular. And all in all, it was pretty awesome. I am going to flash some artwork now on the screen. Let's see if I can figure this out here. One Firefly did just launch our Instagram page at Cedia. So please go over to at One Firefly LLC, and you can see the correct spelling there on the screen. And that is now live. So go over to Instagram and like us, and we'll try to do a good job of posting quality content to that social platform. All right, without further ado, let's bring our guest on, Mr. Giles Sutton of Cedia. Giles, how are you, sir?
I am awesome, Ron. Great to be here.
And you live in England.
I do. London, England. Yeah, I'm in
London, England.
Londinium.
And say that again.
Londinium.
And you are in the U.S. You're up at Indy. You're in Indy, correct? At Cedia headquarters.
That's right. So I came straight from San Diego to our offices in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Got it. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your super busy schedule to join us here on Automation Unplugged.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
Now, Giles, you have spent at least a portion of your career as an integrator, and I want our audience to learn all about that. But before we go there and we talk about the past, what is the present? What is your current role with Cedia?
So I joined Cedia just about 2 months ago as Senior Vice President of Industry Engagement. So that is a new role that was created, and the main premise of the role is that I am driving member engagement around the world, driving more partnerships with manufacturers, and also expanding people's awareness of Cedia with influencers, designers, architects, that kind of thing.
Got it. It sounds like a rather large role, a lot of responsibility.
It is indeed. Yeah, it covers a lot of different areas, 100%. You know, there's an outreach element to it, membership, business development. I think Cedia, when they were recruiting for this role, they wanted someone that really sort of understood the market. So I think that really was a big part of why I was brought on board.
Awesome. Well, help my audience and I understand a little bit about your background. You know, where'd you come from? What did you study? What did you do before you landed here at Cedia?
Cool. Well, I mean, you said a portion of my life was spent as an integrator. I'd say the majority of my life was actually spent as an integrator. I mean, going right back to when I was a youngster, I mean, like a lot of people in this industry, I was techie from the get-go. I don't know why I was, but, I always knew how to program the VCR. I was always the kid at home that was, editing, family movies and stuff. So, it was always been techie. And the natural thing for me, because I loved music, I was quite musical as well. I moved into sort of the music technology world. And then from that, I went to the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, LIPA, which was a very new performing arts college that was set up by the Beatles, Paul McCartney, one of the Beatles. So it had incredible facilities there, recording studio facilities. So I graduated with a degree in sound technology. And like, many sound technology graduates, there weren't a lot of jobs in, recording studios at that time. It was at the time where everything was becoming, computer-based with the likes of Pro Tools and things like that. So I worked for a company that designed pro audio facilities for educational establishments, universities, schools. And yeah, got into this industry that someone that I used to work with basically said, you need to get into this, dude. This is a growing industry. And actually, I joined a company at, I think it was in 2003. So only a couple of years after I graduated, and started by programming Philips Prontos, so that's how I started, and, worked for a few companies, ran a custom installation department at a hi-fi store, and then decided to set up on my own, set up my own business. And I set that up at the age of 25. And then I've been doing that ever since. So it was a big step for me to move away from that business and join Cedia. I really, built the business up into a really, really good organization. We had some fantastic relationships with designers and architects. So yeah, that's my background, really.
Tell me a little bit about that integration firm. Can you, can you expound on that a little bit? A lot of those listening to this show, whether live or as a recording later, a lot of this audience are integrators, and so I think they'd appreciate, certainly with your position and outreach at now the trade association level, kind of what perspective you're bringing to the table from your integration firm.
Sure. Well, the name of the company was called James and Giles, and as I say, I set it up in 2006. When I set the business up, I really wanted it to be positioned in a way that it would be appealing to designers and architects. So what I did was, being a lover of architecture and interior design, I aligned the marketing of my site with architecture sites. So actually, from the get-go, I made sure that it was very image heavy, because I always find it's actually quite difficult to tell the story of what we do because we can steal all the technology. So it dawned on me that actually, when people land on a website for a company, they just want to see projects that that are aspirational, that look like the kind of projects that they work on. So architects will say, oh, well, this company works on projects that look similar to the ones that we design. So I basically geared the whole marketing piece up to looking basically like that's an architect's firm. So that was one thing I did. We as soon as this was before a lot of social media, but as soon as there was Instagram was launched, we really pushed our Instagram feed. It became. I always think it's quite strange how our industry are very, very good at working with each other, chatting, geeking out on Twitter, that kind of thing. But I think it's interesting how we seem to not be so good at actually marketing outwardly. So one of the things I really did, and it's interesting that you've launched on Instagram as well, because I think Instagram is one of the most powerful social media platforms for our industry and totally underutilized. I really, there are some companies that have really got involved with it. But everyone seems to be on Twitter. And okay, there are designers on Twitter, but designers and architects are visual people. They want to see pictures of projects. They're curious about our industry. So yeah, so that's we James and Giles was typically at the high end of the market. Like a lot of companies, I guess. We had good processes in place. We had Cedia certified technicians and network specialists on staff. So, and we were also enrolled in their outreach program as well. So I regularly delivered training to architects as well as part of this.
So I want to jump into a couple of those, if you don't mind, a couple of those items you just mentioned. One is the idea that you certainly had a vision from a marketing standpoint of how to present yourself with imagery on your website, and within even the style, the layout of your website was more of what, say, an architect or design firm might present, as opposed to maybe your classic integrator website. Did you regularly photograph your projects? And if so, how did you maneuver that? Did you have a partnership with a studio in London, or multiple studios, or did you do this in-house?
A mixture, to be honest, because it depends. A lot of the time, the architects that were working on the project, they would photograph the project themselves. So, they'd often ask for a small contribution to the fee of having a professional photographer take the pictures. But also, I bought a camera that had a really good wide-angle lens on it as well. So I'd also photograph it myself. Obviously, the benefit of photographing it yourself is you own the rights to the image. So actually, that was something that we tried to photograph jobs as much as possible, because, if you start to put these images on social media, you need to get the permission of the photographer otherwise. But yeah, we made a point of always pushing to photograph our jobs.
How would you maneuver getting the approval from the customer to photograph it? Did you find that most customers wanted their projects photographed, or did you have to fight a battle around that?
I never really had a problem with it. I found, it's obviously some high-profile clients that you work with, celebrities. I also worked, with a royal family. You wouldn't even go there. You wouldn't even ask them, because you just know the answer's going to be no. And you wouldn't even want to put them in a position where they had to decide. But the majority of customers I found were very receptive to it. Just, they just want everything to be anonymous. Don't go into too much detail about the location of the property or the homeowner. Just be very careful not to take any pictures of things that could identify them. But yeah, didn't find it very difficult at all.
Were you using much video, or were you doing mostly photography of the projects?
No, it was mostly photography, actually. It actually, on an interesting point, I was chatting to a designer, and actually a lot of designers write into their contract that they're actually able to photograph the projects, which is quite interesting. So that's something as well that, integrators might want to think about, is actually having a marketing clause in their contracts that actually says they have permission to actually photograph the project after it's been completed, something like that. Clients can always scrub it out, but it might be worth just putting that into your contract, because that could actually be very, very powerful.
Chris Gamble, I think one of your brothers from the UK there, is commenting. He said, who was the James in James and Giles?
So that is a question I got asked all the time. So actually, he was someone that actually, a very close friend who actually suggested that I should do this. So it was a long time ago. I had an opportunity to work on a project, and actually he said I should go ahead and do this. To be perfectly honest with you, there was also a marketing angle to this. I actually also thought, it's just me setting up this company. Automatically, it sounds like a larger company.
Let's look bigger than we are.
Yeah, exactly. 50% bigger.
The royal family was willing to hire you. Well, it's not just Giles, so let's go with them. They look bigger. Exactly.
And then it also, again, plays back to this architect kind of thing. A lot of architects have, put their surnames into their names. They have partnerships, so it was along those lines. I also felt there was a lot of techie names out there, tech this, tech, synergy this, all these.
You take about 10 words and jumble them in a hat and pick them out in 1, 2s, or 3s, and you'll name 90% of our industry.
You know what? That is a funny idea. We should have a website where you can actually push a button. It's a random tech.
Name your integration firm. Audio, video, tech. Audio, video integration.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Bruno Napoli is watching, by the way. He says, fake it until you make it. Bruno, I've been watching you on social. I've seen that you're now, I believe he's working for a company in China. I don't remember, but I know Bruno comes from Paris, right? lives in France. Or he did. I don't know if he moved. Update us, Bruno. Tell us what you're doing. Put it in the comments there. All right. So, Giles, a question. You said you leveraged Cedia's ROI program. Now, I've many moons ago, I want to say at this point, maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe more, maybe 12 years ago, I personally became an ROI instructor for Cedia. And so I'm a big advocate of going out to the design community and teaching. But can you talk about how you did it? Like, what were the mechanics, the tactical on-the-ground methods you used to get the meeting? Who would do the training? And all, can you expound on that?
Sure. So just some background on the program. It's called the COI program, just a Certified Outreach Instructor program. Basically, you go on a day-long course with Cedia. Once you're approved, you then have access to a whole bunch. In the UK, there's only, I think, a couple at the moment, but I think by next year, there'll be about 6, which is really exciting. So over in the US, there are already, I think, 6 or 7 courses, but that, you know, I know that over in the UK, people have been hungry for these courses. So basically, once you have been certified as an outreach instructor, you then have you are then able to present these courses to architects and designers, and they then earn credits as part of their membership to their industry bodies. So like the ASID, the AIA in the US, the RIBA in the UK. And also we're replicating that in Australia as well, I should say as well. There's about 30 outreach instructors over in Australia. So that's a growing market for us. Basically, I think the key thing about this program is it's a foot in the door, right? At the end of the day, it's a reason to contact an architect or a designer along the lines of you're providing actual education to them. So it's not a sales pitch. Obviously, there's an opportunity to, you know, provide literature or examples or things to the people that are in the room, but it is an education topic that you're providing. And a lot of architect firms have their own CPD committees and stuff, and they sit down monthly and they decide the courses that they want to do. So I know some companies have actually embraced this whole program to the extent that they actually have people on staff, like telemarketers on staff, and all they do, like lead gen, all they do is call up architects and designers and try and get and push these courses because they're that powerful. I know that you know, over here we're going to be doing a lot more around this program. This is something that I see as very powerful. Part of my role is clearly increasing our engagement with the influencers. So I'm really focusing on this program. I think there is the potential of having influencer events. So this is something I'm also looking at, is whether we have, you know, small scale influencer events around the world where we have designers invited and Cedia members that are certified can present to them. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to get COI certified. All I would say is it requires some time, right? And it requires time to pick up the phone and call designers and get your foot in the door. But most of them are receptive. Look, most of them are hungry to know about our industry. That's the one thing that has been really quite striking through some of the discussions that I've had both at Expo, through some of the Design Connection tours that were happening there, and also my conversations with the ASID, is their members want to know about technology. You know, it's still a bit of an unknown, and they don't know how to work with us so well either. So I think there's something to be said for looking at a course that explains how we work with them. So yeah, I think, you know, massive opportunity.
What would be next steps for anyone listening that wants to investigate the COI program with Cedia? What do you recommend as immediate next steps?
Well, so the courses run all around the US and in the UK as well, and I think there's another one coming up in Australia. Get on the Cedia website, you'll see it listed under the training. Obviously, you need to be a Cedia member as well to have access to this program, but it is until we launch something at Cedia last week that I want to talk about. But I think it's one of our biggest member benefits, alongside, you know, the awards program as well.
No, I agree. When I have, I'm working with integrators every day of the week, and many of them are either looking at how to improve their marketing or looking at how to prepare for the future. On in a case where maybe the market isn't as rich as it is right now, and my common go-to is outreach. I mean, you need to be positioned as the thought leader in front of those designers, architects, builders, people in the design trade in your local markets. And what many of the business owners here in Cedia or in the integration space don't realize is that an architect has to maintain their licensing by getting CEUs. They have to attend education. And so, they want you to come into their office, and, you do have to pay. You have to buy them lunch, maybe. But your vendors will generally pay for that. Mm-hmm. And they want education. And so it's a captive audience. It really is, I think, maybe silly that more people don't go out there and take advantage of this stellar program from Cedia. So I agree.
They spend about 8 years, I think, in education to actually, maybe even more than that, to actually become a qualified architect. So, yeah, absolutely, it's in their DNA to want to learn. They're hungry to learn. I think a lot of integrators are just nervous approaching this sector, and I think that's Cedia has a role to play in that. I think the higher you can get up the food chain, the better, I think, because you're being seen as a professional. You're sitting around the table with other professionals. You're not someone else's responsibility. I think if you're hired by the contractor, which I know a majority probably of our members are, you don't have a lot of influence, with what's actually going into the property. Whereas if you can get in right at the start, you can actually really make a huge impact.
Bruno just asked a question, I think directed for you. He says, do you think that one day the construction industry will require the home technology professional to be certified in order to work on a construction site?
That's a good question. I think
it would probably be country dependent, right?
It would be, and I know even in the US it becomes state
dependent.
Absolutely, and we have a government affairs department here as well that actually the whole industry benefits from as well. So because you don't have to be a Cedia member to get that benefit. But yeah, I think there is potential. I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
It's a loaded question. That's a big, hairy question. You could step in a lot of landmines with that question.
Yeah. So I think Cedia said. So to answer it in a different way, I think every single member company should have a Cedia certified member of staff on board. I think it's vital. I mean, and also to also invest in continuing education with your staff. And I'm not talking about manufacturer specific education because that can be quite focused on products. The nice thing about Cedia education is it's obviously brand agnostic, and that is something that we are really focusing a huge amount of effort in. So. We have, alongside me, there is a Senior Vice President of Education and Certification who's joined, Tom Darling. We are really ramping up our online education. And these are going to be cost-effective, kind of 4-hour or less courses. We're going to have, by the end of next year, 72 online learning courses. And this is not just technical courses. This is courses in business. And this is something I keep getting, this is the conversations I had at the show. We want to help Cedia members' businesses prosper. So it's going to be on subjects like marketing, sales, social media, as we touched on, as well as business management. And this is, I think, is going to be the most game-changing things about our education offering next year. We need to do what we can to help businesses improve. It's essential. So I'm really excited about that.
Got it. So JJ Cannon of Digital Delight and of I believe the Digital Ramble. Correct me if I'm wrong, yes. JJ and Chris.
He's a good guy.
They are here, and JJ said, "Hi, Giles and Ron. What's the topic?" Your man Giles is the topic, JJ. What more do you need? We're just, basking and
topic. Come on.
We don't have, we talk about whatever we want to talk about. That's how we roll here.
Don't they just ramble? You don't have topics.
There you go. See, we ramble too, but we didn't put it in our name. Yeah, he's giving us a thumbs up. Cool. All right, Bruno has another question. He says, on the other hand, how can a home tech pro that have almost no certification can credible and educate an architect? Oh, that's interesting. So he said, so he's saying a home tech pro that doesn't necessarily have a college degree, doesn't necessarily have a certification, how can they be justified in going to an architect who has 8 years of education and giving them relevant content?
Well, that is an interesting question, definitely, because, and we have a new program that we'll be launching soon that I think will address that. I can't talk about it right now, but I think I know where Bruno's coming from. But one of the things that I think is very important is, I want Cedia to represent good companies that are professionals, right? That are involved, that have a professional design and installation element to the work that they do. And that was something that came out of the strategy work that we did. I don't know if people are aware that when we sold Cedia Expo, we felt it was important to go through a strategic planning process, and we worked with a college professor called Dr. Rebecca Humkes, who also worked with Avixa, and has worked with Crestron and some other companies, and works with oil companies. And we felt it was very important that we defined our industry. What is the industry that we're in? Because that really sets in motion everything that we do. So one of the things that we did was to define the industry as professional design and installation industry. So there has to be a design and installation element in home technology. So yeah, at the end of the day, I believe we're going to represent professionals in our industry.
I'm going to state that although integrators may not have a college degree in engineering, they've got a life degree in the School of Hard Knocks out there doing installations. And that's not to disparage any integrator. They come from all different shades of backgrounds and educations and levels of business experience. But when you spend a long career out there figuring things out, and when Cedia certifies a curriculum as having been approved by the AIA and the ASID, then who better to communicate that message than the people that are on the ground with real life experience delivering this officially certified content. And so that would be, I think, my response to Bruno, why I think it's legitimate. I would also add for integrators that are watching, there you go. Chris says we all got scars. That's right, and you educate from those scars and those experiences. Yeah,
and just because you haven't got a college degree doesn't necessarily mean that you're not running a really good business.
That's right.
I think the difference. I think the only interesting point is that, and this isn't about credentials or saying how professional or not you are. I just think there are a lot of people in our industry that are real techies and not necessarily business minded, and I think that's something that when it comes to also the way people design systems as well is something that I think should potentially be looked at. I think I would urge simplicity in system design. I think there are a lot of people.
Less is more, better is better.
Right, exactly. And I think so the key is, I think we need to make sure that that we empower members with the right tools to be able to develop good businesses.
So I would you believe it? We're almost at 30 minutes, and I know we have a whole list of topics we want to get to. I told you this would happen. We'll blink, and we're going to get there. So I'm going to jump right in. It was in the news just recently that Cedia acquired a theater design software company. Can you talk about that? And I even went ahead in advance of the show and went out and grabbed some screenshots from their website. Can you tell us what was acquired and what the benefits to the Cedia member are in using it?
Sure. So Cedia acquired a software platform called the Cinema Designer, which we've now renamed the Cedia Designer. So this is a tool that allows you to design home theaters, media rooms. It could be just a television on a wall with a soundbar, up to a full home theater system. By just entering in design information, so the size of the room, the types of construction materials that are being used, and in a matter of minutes, it will push out a whole raft of information. So that is, an actual CAD drawing, and this is the real intellectual property that we were so excited about. Is that this is something that no one else could do. Putting in all this information, you push a button, and it actually pushes out this incredible CAD model, 3D CAD model. In addition to that, it also provides loads of information on the products that are being used. It obviously conforms to current standards as well. And really, this is us wanting to provide our members with a tool that they can use to design high quality home theaters. And this, having been an integrator for many years, I've stepped into many rooms that are meant to be home theaters. And you walk into the room and there are like 5 in-ceiling speakers in the room with a crooked, LED TV on the wall, and that's the home theater. So, that is clearly not a home theater. So what this is it again comes back to providing our members with a real benefit. This the base version of this software is free with your Cedia membership.
How have you seen early adoption? So this just happened. How have you seen the dealers attending the classes at Cedia and or downloading the software?
So the adoption's been phenomenal. So obviously it was only launched last week. So less than a week ago. We're seeing over 100 home theater designs being carried out a day on this. So that's great, and it's expanding as people are aware of it.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I actually used it within my business as well. And actually, to give you an example of how this can be useful, an architect in the early stages of designing a property said to me, "Can you just send me a CAD block for a 10-seater home theater system, just so I can drop it into my plans and have some early conversations with the client?" To do that would take hours and hours and hours. You'd need the CAD drawings, you need to drop it into CAD. We don't, for that early kind of speccing time, you haven't had a design deposit, you can't do that. You go into the Cedia Designer, you put in all the information, you've got the room, and you've got a CAD block, send it straight over to the architect, and you can put it straight into his designs. You don't even have to charge him for it. So
Chris Gamble just commented, he said this software will be hugely popular with members. Huge. I think he's using his Donald Trump voice when he says huge.
Did he use caps for that? I hope so.
They did. There's caps. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Yeah.
You automatically have to say it in Trump's, whatever. I don't know. I would say accent, but I don't know if he has an accent. But.
So manufacturers are loving it. Obviously, we have loads of manufacturers that have their products in there. So more and more, there are actually manufacturers that actually use it as part of their design service. So like Meridian Audio, for example, use it as part of the design service that they offer their dealers.
That's right. I was just talking to Ryan. Meridian is now providing engineering services for free for their dealers for their projects.
Yeah, so this is part of what they use. It's phenomenal. We're in talks with lots of different manufacturers who are very interested in it. And I would encourage everyone who is a Cedia member just to go to the website, which is cediadesigner.org. Use your Cedia login. You'll get in straight away, and you're in the software. You're there. So just get straight into it and just drop some coordinates in. You'll be amazed at what it can do. It is phenomenal.
On the subject of theater designing, and I don't even know the name of the company, but you may have remembered last week. So I'm leading in here neat things from the show. Did you visit that company where you put the VR headset on? They're out of Utah.
Oh, is that real?
Real? Is that what it is? I thought it was with a modular. I don't know. Somebody help me that's watching. Drop the name into the chat. But I know their button said "losing my VR virginity," and
So
that was their promotion. But that demo was amazing. I don't know, did
wouldn't
you?
it be incredible as an idea that the output of the Cedia designer can somehow tie into that? Wouldn't that?
Well, yeah. So they said you can import. I believe they said you can import CAD files or drawings. So if you're doing the basic layout in the Cedia designer and then importing it into there and allowing for the configuration of the room, I mean, holy bananas. We're talking about state-of-the-art techniques here for selling theaters.
Okay, all I'm going to say is watch this space.
Oh, so there's more coming. All right. Well, so by the way, Chris and JJ just posted that thing was called Modus VR.
Ah, that's it. Yeah, Modus VR.
Modus VR. That was pretty good.
Oh,
Excellent
and I should also.
by the way, Chris informed us he's cooking dinner while he's listening to us. Just in case anyone wonders, what are people doing? He's cooking dinner.
What's for dinner?
Now, come on, Chris. What's for dinner? You make it enough for all of us?
Yeah, no, this is lunchtime for me. I'm not eating anything.
By the way, I have to give a big shout out to Chris and JJ at Cedia. I was there on Tuesday with John, my right-hand man, building our booth, and we had this monstrosity of a structure. By the way, he says salmon. This monstrosity of a structure, and up come Chris and JJ looking terribly innocent, and so I snatched them, and they helped us finish building our booth. So, guys, greatly appreciated. If you go to our new Instagram page, you will see pictures of them assisting in the building of the One Firefly booth.
Awesome.
Giles, I want to talk about tunable lighting. This is everyone's talking about it. Lutron purchased Ketra. You have, I want to say LumaStream here out of the west coast of Florida. I'm seeing their name pop up. I'm sure there's a Color Beam is another one. What do you think's happening? Why are we hearing about this?
Well, I think it's definitely a new opportunity for integrators in our market. I was blown away by the Ketra demonstration. I don't know if you saw it, Ron.
I did.
Yeah, it wasn't just the product, it was the whole way they told the story of the product. And I think actually that's something that, I think integrators can learn from as well, is actually how to do a pitch like that, because it was incredible.
Now you saw, so I'm going to have to send this video to Sophia from Lutron. You saw Sophia present tunable lighting, is that correct?
I did. It was Sophia.
What was your experience watching Sophia in all of her expertise deliver that message? How'd she do on a 1 to 10 scale?
Can I do like a Spinal Tap 11?
Wow. It was that good.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, the way that whole room as well was totally designed to tell that story. The way they also brought in Josh AI, they brought in some voice control as well. The way they picked out, showed how a piece of artwork on the wall, how the colors can change. I think it was really compelling. I thought it was really phenomenal. But more broadly speaking, I think lighting is a huge opportunity. I know it's been written about quite a lot, but I not just from the selling of fixtures, but I think actually lighting design as a skill, I think is something that should be within our industry. It should belong to us, because it's something that, in my experience, there are obviously lighting designers out there, but a lot of them do tend to be in the commercial world, not just purely focused on residential. But it tends to be something that falls in between the cracks. Like the architect will have a go, the designer will have a go. And what tends to happen is it ends up falling on the lap of the integrator to sort out this sort of mess. And what the integrator obviously needs a control schedule so that they can put that in, so they know what's happening on the lighting control side. So, I think lighting design is the opportunity, and obviously lighting fixture sales, but lighting design is also an opportunity to get your foot in the door of these influencers as well, don't forget. And then suddenly you're talking their language, how rooms are laid out, they suddenly see you as one of them. So
I think adding a lighting designer to the team, and frankly, and let's be frank, all of the profit opportunity to sell fixtures. I mean, these fixtures are not inexpensive.
Right.
and they are not without margin.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, screams opportunity. And yet, if our listeners and those watching look to their left and right in their marketplace, how many of their competitors are currently doing this? It's got to be a very small minority, a very small number, or have adopted this new path. So the opportunity it's awesome.
I agree.
It's one of the. Give me one more thing that excited you from Cedia.
So, I mean, you touched on it as well. I think the notion of energy automation. I'm always interested in finding these new markets that we can, as an industry, I say we, Cedia members, our industry can move into. And I think that the idea of energy automation is very interesting. The Sonnen, I think you said you went to the Sonnen party. They're doing some really interesting stuff.
I did the tech talk with Sonnen.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. I was on there with the fearless Blake Riquetta, former co-worker and peer of mine from Lutron, and now he's running that business.
I didn't realize he was from Lutron as well. So yeah, I think it's obviously a much more it's a market that is a product that is much more geared up to our market than like the Tesla product, for example. The way that it can be integrated with Control 4, for example, other automation systems. So
now I believe they have their driver sets done for C4 and for Crestron. Both of those are baked and ready to go, from what I understand.
Yeah, so I'm interested in talking to these guys further and seeing what we can do on that side of things, whether there is an education offering around energy automation that we can be looking at. Yeah, I thought that was really exciting. Obviously, the Raver guys are doing really cool stuff as well. Very excited about that. Otherwise, the Ketra stuff on the Lutron stand was phenomenal. So yeah, great
Giles,
show. Wasn't it a great show?
It was awesome. I had a blast. I mean, for One Firefly, as I've probably said a few times, for me, this was show, I think, number 18 or 19 for me. Personally, I was with Lutron, Crestron, and then as One Firefly. And for our business, we stepped it up a notch this year, had a bit of a nicer booth, nicer presence, a little more coordinated. And, you've done something right when you have people walk up to you and say, "Is this your first time at the show? You guys look good." I'm like, well, that's like good and bad, because this is like our 9th year at the show. But the first time, I think, really stepping it up. And so, we now know the level that we need to operate moving forward.
Awesome.
Giles, I am very excited for you and for our community at large with your moving to Cedia and taking your expertise and experience and passion to help this channel, help this industry globally. I think it's very, very exciting. I really appreciate you taking some time to come on the show.
Thanks, Ron. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed being here.
If you will allow me, I'm going to invite you back, and I'd love for us to make this a regular thing. You keep us appraised what's going on in Cedia land.
Cool. Well, if people also want to follow me on Twitter, I'm Cedia Giles, Giles.
Cedia Giles. Are there any other? And I'll put that here. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to type it. I'm going to say follow Giles on Twitter. And you said that is at Cedia Giles.
Yeah. Not Gilet.
Not Gilet? Yeah, see, I didn't even bring out the Gilet. I saved. I did that with Jimmy. I wasn't going to do that to your face. That was too much fun. All right, let me get signed off here. All right, ladies and gentlemen that are watching. Number one, thanks for watching. Please like this. Please share this. This is how we spread the good word with our friends in the industry. I am going to remind you that One Firefly is now on Instagram. So there's our address. Please go on Instagram, check it out. We just launched this last week. So we are, I guess, Instagram virgins, but no longer. We are now on Instagram, and we're going to spread the love and all the marketing goodness that is One Firefly. And I do not have I don't have the artwork done for my next 4 guests. I can tell you we got some good ones, including Blake Riquetta. We're having him back. We had him on just a little over a year ago. Blake is the CEO of Sonnen, that big energy automation story coming out of Cedia. So we have him on, I think, in a couple of weeks. And on that note, thank you for joining us. And it was my pleasure. And we will see everyone next week on another episode of Automation Unplugged.